Welcome, Sean.
Hey, it's great to be on the podcast.
Yeah, really glad to have you today. Would you mind giving our listeners just a quick 411 and a background on who you are, where you come from, and how you found your way onto the show today?
Yeah, I just an entrepreneur. I've started over 20 companies over the last 25 years, wrote 3 books, and do real well in business personally. So I'm not one of them guys who like sell a course or wrote a book and that becomes their business. I run real businesses that have payrolls every Friday. And so, yeah, that's me. And I host a top podcast called the 10-Minute Entrepreneur as well.
Fantastic. Would you mind telling us what kind of businesses you have now currently?
Yes, I have a home service. I have 8 companies within home services. I love service companies in general. And then I own 2 digital companies. One is actually a podcast booking service. I actually started with my son, does incredible. And then I own Gig Strategic, which is a digital marketing company for local small businesses in our Virginia area, where you can actually get in front of somebody. It's when with my companies, I knew I needed to move into digital, and I just didn't understand it at all. So I had this radio station and TV station. Everybody was pitching me digital because I'm a high-end advertiser. I buy Super Bowl ads and stuff like that. So they were all coming to my office trying to pitch me about 4 years ago. And one guy in the room was the quietest guy in the room, but he was the smartest guy in the room. And so I took his card over everybody else's, and he worked for a radio station. I said, hey, James, if you can handle my digital marketing and it's you, I'll sign on with you all, but I want you to meet with me at my office for 15 minutes every month to explain to me how I spent my money and what it did. I said, if you can do that, I don't want emails. I just want you to explain it to me, 15 minutes, like I'm a 12-year-old. And he did that for 6 straight months. And it's funny, I told him in that same phone call, I said, we're going to be either business partners or you're going to come work for me if you're good at this. And he said, I thought you were an arrogant SOB, but then I was starting to believe it. He said, because you kind of give off that vibe that you probably wouldn't say it if you didn't believe it. So 6 months later, we were doing really good, and he was monthly doing that. And I said, hey, have you ever been to Disney World? Because he had little kids and everything. And he goes, no, we hadn't been, but we'd love to. I said, great, let me pay for you and your family to go to Disney World. He goes, well, why would you do that? I said, well, I told you when we first started talking, you either come work for me or we're going to be business partners. This is my down payment on it. Needless to say, 3 years later, if you Google Gig Strategic, you'll see James pitching it. He was the guy who got me started on digital marketing. And then after 3 years, I'm like, you need to do for other companies like you did for me. You need to get in front of people. You need to make the complicated not complicated. And I said, I have a lot of business associates that we're going to make money really quick. So I guaranteed a salary for 1 year. And we went out, and within the first month, we were profiting. We did like 18,000 our first month, and the rest has been like history.
And I'm sure it's probably the best decision he ever made too, I would imagine.
Yeah, he bought a BMW this year, so yeah, it's working out pretty well for him.
Oh, that's fantastic.
So I have businesses from A to Z. They're really diverse.
And when you say service type businesses, would you mind breaking down like which service ones
I like things that robots can't do.
Okay.
I want to put a roof on your house. I want to put siding on your house. I want to do handyman job, and I'll tell you a quick story about that. Handyman jobs. I want to remodel your bathroom. I want to remodel your kitchen. I want to build you a brand new deck. I've made about $80 million doing that, and if you can't do it online or a robot, I'm interested.
Yeah, I like that.
I want durable companies. I want things that listen to me. I've made money hanging Christmas lights before.
I believe it. Right.
Yeah,
so let me ask you this. So starting these businesses, I would imagine you're not the guy that's out there on the roof. So
I couldn't put together a 3-piece birdhouse.
So where does it come from? You're like, well, okay, so I want to do these service type businesses, but I'm not a handyman. How do you find the people?
Yeah, my secret power is partnering. 1 + 1 with me equals done. So I know I can get any business off the ground. I'm a systems guy. I always partner with somebody who's an expert. That's my secret. I'll run ads, just ads for people. And if you want to get, it's the old thing. If you want to hire Santa Claus, run an ad for a big heavy set guy who likes red, loves wearing velvet in the winter, and hangs out with, with reindeer. I
Love it.
run ads for exactly what I would love to have in the perfect person. And then when I'm interviewing them, I pitch a partnership. I pitch them like, listen to me, if I've been doing this pretty well over the years, you kind of got to sell them on yourself. I could hire you as an employee, but it's not the best deal for you because I think you're more talented than that. I typically would always then have the second interview at my house, which is pretty audacious, very big house, lots of really nice cars and guest house and all that. And then they start getting the idea. They're like, okay, wait a second. This guy's playing at a different level. And then I bring them on as partners. I have 7 of those right now. And just a simple example, we have a store in our town called Better Living. It sells home products for if you're building your house, it's kind of like a high-end Lowe's. Okay. Something like that. That'd be an example. Well, I had a representative there that always helped us whenever we were doing kitchens. He sold all the cabinets there. Well, I'm getting ready to go in there one day and he says, hey, I'm retiring. He's like 55 years old, 60. I can tell he's just kind of fed up. He said, Friday's my last day. I'm like, Charles, can we go to lunch on Friday? Well, 10 years later, Charles makes about $100,000 a year, works every other week, takes probably 15 vacations a year, and makes way over $100,000. Because once we went to lunch, I said, tell me everything you don't like about your job. Great, I can fix all those. Everything I need, you have. I need an expert, an estimator, and a guy to oversee the jobs. My existing company will answer the phone. We'll do all the insurances. I have the labor. I'm a marketing, I'm very good at marketing.
Sure.
Boom. Well, I've done that formula countless times. Every time I see a need, I partner with someone who's the expert. I create the system and I, we have a really good brand here and I like Gig Strategic. I came up with the name. I don't know anything about anything digital, but I understand good naming, so I kind of create the image and then partner with people. I get it off the ground, bankroll it. And then because I really think they're going to be talented, I know quickly I'm going to be able to pull myself out of it and just mentor them. And so.
And have you had really great success picking the right people?
I've only picked one bad person in 20 some years.
Wow,
that's because I defied my rule. I didn't know him well enough. I didn't vet his personal character enough. And it was outside of an industry that I had any understanding of. Like within home services, I understand it from top to bottom. I can't fix everything, but I know all the math. I know all the players. Sure. I understand that. Digital marketing, I know advertising. I owned a magazine in 23 cities, so I have a general understanding of it. I tried something, hubris took over. It was way outside my strike zone. It was in retail. I was completely dependent on another person who was handling the money. Everything you shouldn't do, I did. And, and I lost some money, but I learned, some good lessons, and it's how you write good books.
Yeah, right. So where did you start? Hearing your success now for somebody that might be listening there, like where was the beginning?
Yeah, I never planned on starting a business per se. I grew up less than rich, that's for sure, and mowed lawns like people and bought my own clothes and, I had that general worker's mentality, of course. Was a good high school athlete, had a Division I scholarship for athletics. So I got a bachelor's degree. Coming out of college, I got my dream job. I offered to work for a big firm in DC for free, for 90 days for free, because I knew that's the way to get a job. Like I was going to skip all the rungs on the ladder. So instead of starting out in this little place, I'm like, hey, I'll just work for free and earn the right to work at a big place. So that worked out pretty well. I met my wife there. I was one class away from a master's degree, new house, new child, the whole thing going. Then there was a change of leadership overnight and I was let go. And I kind of knew then, hey, this idea of security, doesn't seem to align, it's not reality. But, the fact is you can be let go at any time for any reason. And that kind of started to where I was like, I'm never going to be dependent on a job per se. I'll always have something that I own on the side. And that kind of got everything going.
And what was your first successful business?
Yeah. So when I lost my job, if you're fairly charismatic and know how to communicate, took a job selling insurance. Actually made really good money, except didn't really like it. But on Mondays, we had staff meetings, and it's the first time I was around a lot of wealthy people, really nice cars. And it hit me, remember, this is like 27 years ago, that why don't we get our cars cleaned in the parking lot? Like, we all have all these really nice cars, and then we got to look good all week and sell to people. You know, we're going into businesses and selling. So I said, what if somebody could come to this parking lot and clean the cars? Again, I've never cleaned a car in my life either. So I came up with the idea of Wax Master Mobile Detailing. Example, never complicate your name. Not everybody's Uber or Google. Make your name so simple that people know what in the heck you do. Wax Master Mobile Detailing. Tagline, America's choice in mobile detailing. Always take a bold position. Phone number, 888-933-3824. Toll free, we detail. Still remember it to this day. They actually cleaned 2 of my cars 2 weeks ago because I sold it like 25 years ago. Started it, sold insurance, made $35,000 on the side that year. Never cleaned a car. All I did is create the brand, like what I did with Gig Strategic. Sure. Good at creating the brand, made the phone ring, good at marketing, created a system, did a 50-50 split, which is what I do with my partners. I did a 50-50 split with the gentleman who cleaned the cars. And I made 35 grand. And 35 grand extra money is really nice. Pays for weddings, can pay for college. You can type $35,000 into like, what is it, calculator chimp or something, at 9.5% return, and see what your retirement will look like.
Love it. So as you have success with that, what was the next thought? Like, hey, I was able to do a mobile car detailing, and I never washed a car before. Like, now, what was next?
Yeah,
like,
so I advertised. The advertising part of it really fascinated me.
Okay.
So I had to do advertising, obviously, to make the phone ring. And I found direct mail at the time was a good source of advertising. And there was a direct mail magazine that I liked that worked really well for me where I live. And I was like, man, maybe I can go do this in another area, kind of like a franchise situation. And so my wife and I visited Charlottesville, Virginia. At the time, it was voted the #1 city in America to live, according to Money Magazine, 2 out of 3 years, actually. Beautiful. So we went there, and then I called the corporate and said, hey, do you have anybody doing this magazine here in this area? And they did licensing agreements. And so I took over Charlottesville. They had 2 people that tried it here. Both of them had failed. Literally, when I took it over, they were in litigation with Domino's. I'll never forget when I called Domino's guy, the owner, local guy, Ray Sellers. I'll never forget it. He goes, you do know I'm suing you. I go, no, you're suing the other guy. I'm the guy you want to do business. He goes, well, why? I go, because I'm going to get this thing off the ground. And if you're not in it, I'm going to have Papa John's in it. I said, so Ray, I'll credit you for everything that they ripped you off or you feel like you didn't get. I'll credit you that up front. And you and I start over because I want Domino's in my thing. And that was it. And he was a client for like 8 years until I sold it. And so I started it in Charlottesville, eventually expanded it to 23 cities and made a ton of money. And I'd work with a lot of service companies in my magazines, a lot of locally owned service companies. And obviously I had my previous experience with the detailing. So when I started the magazine, sold my detailing company to a local person who was actually in my magazine because I needed to focus on the magazine. And then I wanted to set up a home office. You know, I'm running this magazine. I have a second child. Trying to find a handyman was like trying to find a one-eyed leprechaun. Now, literally, I cannot assemble a 3-piece birdhouse. So I tell my friends, like, is there any handyman? Can you get anybody to do any work? And nobody could refer anybody to me. So I started a handyman company, Advantage Handyman Services. Again, don't complicate the name. Advantage means you were A in the phone book. So I learned that. So A was the way to go. Started Advantage Handyman. 5 weeks into it, I had 54 phone calls for work. Wow. I only wanted it to pay for my golf membership to a high-end golf club here. That's it. I was like, man, if it makes me $1,500 a month, my wife was like, you can join long as it's extra money.
Right.
So I started it thinking it would pay for that. I kind of had like a $2,000 a week business plan. It did incredible, obviously 54 phone calls. Then I had to go back to my partnering, but I needed a real partner this time because this thing I know was going to go crazy. So I bought a guy who was in my magazine, I had a painter in my magazine, and I bought his painting company to expand my thing, but I had a plan. I bought his company, and then the next day I asked him to be my business partner. So I said, listen, you keep the money for what I just paid you. I want you to be partners with me in Advantage, and we'll do a 50-50 split. I'll split all revenue with you 50-50. And I said, you know, and again, you keep the money I just gave you yesterday. Keep that. He was my partner for, he was my partner for 8 years. We turned into $1 million company within 3 years. And I've rinsed and repeated that basic formula over and over and over and over.
And when you say that you do a 50-50 revenue split, do you also do a 50-50 partnership? Is that
not always? Typically what I do is that, you know, if I'm setting up an LLC, it's more of a management agreement, and that we kind of agree. You can write out everything in a management agreement. We're going to split the money this way, but I always put that I win all coin tosses.
Yes, gotcha.
I always tell them, you have to defer to me, and that I have more business experience than you. Now, I'm not going to rarely, and I hope this never happens, but we're not going to drag on an initiative. Because when I had one of my companies, I had 3 partners, and we had a 6-hour conversation over buying a box truck, and I almost wanted to jump off a bridge. I ended up buying it personally because it was so utterly ridiculous. So yeah, I always own either 51%. If it's an S Corp, I'll own 51% of the stock. They'll own 49%. The other thing I do is I don't allow them to be bought out in the first 5 years. That way they can't cash out early, because I'm betting on me. I know we're going to make a ton of money. So I don't let them buy. I don't let them cash out. They got to hang on for 5 years.
Gotcha.
Can't sell it to Uncle Billy. They can't get bored 3 years in and take up golf. They're in for 5.
Yeah.
And then I do a predetermined buyout, you know, generally 2 times whatever they made the most recent year. So I'm pretty smart with setting up partnership agreements.
And then do you usually buy them out at the end?
No, I don't ever want to lose them. Kurt, I bought out, the painting, because he wanted to move to Florida, but everybody I've had are all my partners for quite a long time.
Yeah.
They make $250,000 a year. I don't tell them when to go to work, when not to go to work. They have responsibilities they have. If they're fulfilling those, as I tell them, I don't care if they're working from a hot air balloon.
And you handle the back end items, the marketing, the finances.
Yeah, right. I create the office infrastructure.
Gotcha.
Which is meticulous. I mean, I have 2 CPAs in the office. I have a customer service rep in the office. But this is where I was smart in the home improvement world. I personally have the Class A contractor's license. Fairly smart guy. I studied my butt off. I hold all the licenses. So okay. I am not dependent on anybody. So
I see what you're saying. Right.
So in other words, I own all roads in. I own the domains. You know what I'm saying? Yep. I own the trademarks. I own the licensing. So,
right.
You know, so I'm in a good position. Simply put, I'd be hard to push off a cliff.
Yeah. And you design it that way, right? That was all
totally. Yeah, absolutely. The smartest thing I ever did was 2 things, is that I got my own license and I bought the property that our company sits at. And I didn't partner in that.
Yeah, you bought that outright.
I bought it outright, and I personally own it. And so that was a really smart move.
So when you're opening the businesses, can you talk a little bit about how you decide S Corp versus LLC? And like for somebody, maybe you're starting their first business, or, you know, can you talk about a little bit about which way they should decide, and how do they figure that out? I think a lot of times people ask somebody that they shouldn't be asking, like, hey, you know, how should I start a business? And they tell them, like, oh, you need to, you know, grandpa started a whatever, and then this is the way they do it, and then when they go to do their taxes, there's a mess. So what's your thoughts on that?
I mean, it's a lot of different ways. I think it's what you realistically see the company becoming. In other words, if you're going to have partners and you're going to sell stock, well, then that's a C Corp, okay, where you're going to maybe one day have it for stock. If you're going to have partnerships, but kind of a local type of partnership, a limited amount, I think in S Corp, you can have 10,000 shares. You know, I don't look at this every day. I think you have to decide where you see the company going. An LLC is a good holding pattern, but what you really want to do is talk to your accountant and kind of see, that's the person you want to talk to, and you want to structure it, because he's going to ask you, are you going to bring in partners? What is your personal tax situation? Does your wife make a lot of money? Does your wife make no money? All those things are going to dictate how you want to set this thing off. Are you going to buy a lot of capital expenses up front? All those things are going to affect how you really want to set it up so that how you can write things off. I've done all the above. I have an S corp. I have an S corp. I have a LLC. I have a C corp. I have all three.
And then when you buy real estate, do you start your own company to buy the real estate? Or?
Yeah, always an LLC.
Yep.
Whenever I buy a piece of real estate, because of liability reasons,
yep,
I always set the address up as 516 Brookway LLC. Whatever the address in the street is, just becomes an LLC.
And then how long did you do business before you brought in-house CPAs?
Right away.
Right away.
That's the biggest mistake. The biggest mistake small business owners make is that they got their wife doing the books. I mean, again, there's certain things you've got to pay. I mean, I'm not saying your accountant's got to be in your office every day, but you need to have a good accountant that you trust that has worked with small businesses, is a pro with small businesses, has worked with businesses well bigger than you. Because I just think that's smart.
I agree. And what's the other parts of your team like that are smart to make sure that you have?
I kind of call it my cabinet. They're designed to protect me. So the big things that I have is I have a CPA in my office that handles all the money that comes in. Okay, that's number one. So I have a CPA in the office. I have a CPA that goes over the books, who comes in the office twice a week. Goes online every day. I literally get an email every night, really in the morning between like 4:30 and 4:45. She oversees that person. She does not work for the company. She works for me personally. I pay her as her contractor. Her job is to make sure nothing looks nefarious. She's like, Sean, did you notice this? Did you notice that? Anything. I will wake up to an email where she will dot out. That keeps everybody in the office straight. So I pay this person privately. And again, she comes in Tuesday and Thursday, looks over the accounts every night that you can't, she doesn't do it on like Saturday night because nothing changes, but you get the general idea.
Yep.
Then I have a CPA who does my taxes, who's a business guy. He's worked with all the best businesses, my tax. He's the one who handles my taxes. He's the one who kind of sits down with me every year and go, listen, what do you got planned next year? You might want to do this, you might want to do that, whatever the case may be. So I work with 3 CPAs, and that's how I've structured them. Next, you need to have a lawyer that you would feel comfortable with, and there's 2 different types of attorneys, and this is really important. You have your general practitioner. This is the good guy, he's nice, and that's fine. I remember I had a legal issue, when I first started my business, and I was in my gym, and the owner of the gym, he owns like 14 of them. He's got a wing of the hospital named after him. He was getting ready to go on my machine, and I said, hey, Phil, can I ask you a question? We kind of knew of each other at least. And he goes, yeah, sure. And I shared with him that I had an ex-employee that I'd gotten rid of was suing me because I gave a bad reference or something. I didn't even know I thought when somebody asks you, you tell the truth. Right. Evidently, you're not, who knows, I probably didn't handle it the perfect way I was supposed to. So she was suing me for $250,000. Well, when you're like 28, $250,000 does seem like a lot of money. So I was quite nervous about it. And he goes, well, who's your attorney? And I told him who it was. He goes, the problem is, he goes, you have a general practitioner. It's good for like a cold. He goes, you need the next tier. You need somebody that when they get the letterhead, the fear of God goes through them. So I hired an attorney like that. I'll never forget the opening paragraph that he sent to the opposing party. He goes, the odds of this settling would comparing to Exxon settling the Valdez case, the big oil spill. Yep. Because there's a better chance of Exxon settling the Valdez case than you getting a dime out of my client. And it ended up going away in under 30 days. So the difference between a $400 an hour attorney and $175. The problem went away in one letter. So you got to put around yourself a good team.
And who else is in your cabinet?
One is it's good to have a mentor. You need to have a business person, and they're not that hard to get. I don't let you in a secret. You don't have to pay for every business mentor out there. I found a person that I looked up to. He was in my magazine. He was 20 years, probably 30 years older than me. Man, may have been 40 now that I think about it. And I went in, I was like, hey, Ben, and, I'm a pretty gregarious guy, I said, let me take you to lunch once a month. I'll pick you up. We'll go across the street. And I'd love to just pick your brain about business for an hour. He loved it. He goes, oh, great. And I did that for, almost a decade. And I would just sit there, buy him lunch, and just bounce ideas off of him. And where did he think of this? And where did he think of that? And he'd, do a war game scenario with me. It could go this, but it could go that way. And, I just wanted a sounding board.
Sure. And I think that's important too. When people hear the word mentorship, I think people do get scared, especially young entrepreneurs, because they're like, how would I ever find a mentor? But I think what you said was real simple. It's say, hey, I'll buy you lunch and let's go have a conversation. And right?
Coffee, lunch and coffee. They're going to probably say yes. This is the thing that's going to shock you. If you're genuine and they're successful, they actually want to share with you what they know. I can't explain it, but if they don't feel like you're going to be exhausting or boring, they're going to share it. But you need to come prepared with good questions, and don't try to ever partner with them. Don't ever try to borrow money from them. That's where people screw it up. It's a mentor. Don't muddy the water.
Yeah, I like that. I think that's very good advice. Because you're right, and it's an easy mistake to happen, I would think.
Yeah, yeah. What do you think of this idea? You think this would be something you might be interested in? Don't muddy the two.
Gotcha. And what have you seen recently with COVID? Is I know in our area, maybe before I get somebody to come over to the house and put new tile down would take like, we'll be with you in a week or two. But now it's like, we're so busy, we'll see you in like, a month and a half. Like, have you seen that people are spending their vacation money on home improvement?
We're booked 6 months out.
Yeah, good for you.
Literally, yep. and we're slammed in every area. The first 4 weeks was people kind of paused.
Yep.
And then, if you're a really good company, like, we're going to have anybody work in our house, let's have them. They probably know to socially distance. The guys will probably wear masks when they walk by us and clean up. That's where reputation and repeat customers really pays off. And our digital marketing company is up 40%, and we're in our second year of business. We're up 40% this year.
Wow, so, that's fantastic.
Again, I don't own a restaurant. I don't own a gym. And I think there are businesses that the battle might be insurmountable. I don't want to downplay that, because I do think no matter how good of a business you had, no matter how good you are, there are certain situations that might be insurmountable based on these conditions.
Yeah, when you're getting government telling you things like, hey, you can only have, a quarter of your capacity or no capacity. Yeah, it's
well, they've never owned a business. Cuomo, all you guys up there, every politician that says run your business at 25%, you are a dumb schmuck, because it takes 75% to typically get it even in a restaurant. Yeah. Okay, so if you think they can pay their bills on 25%, most restaurants don't even make profit except for a few nights a week. They stay open just to have the volume of like a Friday, Saturday, and Sunday and stuff like that. When I hear that 25 and 50, I'm like, you're basically putting them on a respirator. They're gonna go down. It's just gonna take a little bit longer.
Yeah, no, I think you're spot on with that for sure. What would you say to a young entrepreneur listening to us as far as advice on how to get started?
I think the first thing is that, let me tell you what not to do, and then I'll tell you what to do. But if I tell you what not to do, this is the problem I have with all the 20-year-old experts and the 25-year-old experts selling courses. I have no doubt that you have an area of expertise. I'll tell you why you scared the hell out of me. You don't know what you don't know. And that's what makes you dangerous. I'm at an age where I know what not to do. I know how not to partner. I can tell you how to partner, and I can also tell you how not to partner. So when you're setting up you're looking to start a business, let's say you want to be an entrepreneur. First thing is just know why you want to be an entrepreneur in the first place. Be convinced of that, because there's nothing wrong with being an employee. I have a lot of employees that work for me, and I am so grateful they like being employees. They want to do their 8 hours. They don't want to take problems home with them. That's okay.
Yeah.
My daughter's a school teacher. My wife is a part-time nurse. I have no problem with that. So if you're going to be an entrepreneur, just know for sure why you want to be an entrepreneur. Because it's an uphill battle the first 5 years, I think. It's definitely like a roller coaster. Number two is passion is an entrepreneur's mistress. We use passion as our excuse to chase really bad ideas. Just because you're passionate about something does not mean it is a good idea. I'm passionate about golf. I don't go buy a driving range. Okay? Your idea in business needs to be, it has to be profitable. Period. The law of profit, that's all that matters in business. Do you have an idea that will make you money? Because if it doesn't, you have an expensive hobby.
And how about somebody that would say, well, you can make money with a driving range?
Well, that's great. And you probably can't. And most kids, why do I want the 1 in 10?
There it is.
You can probably make money with anything. I'm not doubting that, but I'm just saying, example, there's certain businesses. Would I open a restaurant right now? I'm passionate about cooking. Is this a great time to open a restaurant?
Yeah, absolutely not.
Right. So my point is that what I want to redefine for you, let's talk about passion for just a second. I'm passionate about a lot of things. My successful businesses pay for all those. I can play golf any golf course in the world. I feed kids, clothe kids. My wife and I give away tons of money. I could never do that if I didn't have successful companies. I love building teams. I love working with other people. I get to do that. I'm passionate about that. In other words, I have tons of passions. It's just not any finite business per se.
So what's the difference then? What's the difference between the passion and the right business?
Okay, perfect example. When I started my handyman company, I was in a shopping center, okay? Because I thought traffic, I might as well be in a place where there's restaurants, people could see our name. It's about the same amount of rent. Next to me was a train store. This guy loved trains. He dressed like a conductor every day. He was the most passionate. You got to picture him. Everything you could ever, he was out of business in 6 months. Person next to me on the other side loved, scrapbooking. She had everything to do with scrapbooking. She was out of business faster than he was. 20 some years later, about 60 to $80 million later, my business is around. Why? Because I started a business based on need. There were people that needed handyman at the time and still do. Their idea may have worked in another city, possibly a bigger city. I'm in a smaller city, but it didn't work here. There's not enough of a volume of people that was passionate about what they were at the same level they were. There wasn't enough volume. So you need to find an idea, and the quick way to find a good idea is solve a problem. If you look at all my businesses, I solved the problem. I wanted my car cleaned while I was in a meeting. Okay. Then I got into advertising because it helped me in one of my business. Then I started a handyman business because I couldn't get a handyman. I started a digital marketing company because I needed help with advertising. 4 of my biggest business holdings were based on a need that I personally experienced. And then I vetted it to kind of see if there was other people that had a similar need, if there was some volume there. So you want to have you want to solve a problem, fill a need. There's needs for groceries is a need. Okay. Transportation is a need. There's a lot of needs that people have. Babysitter is a need. Health, adult care is a need. Your lawn being mowed is a need. There's endless needs that you can solve for people.
So that's what you look for, is for a need to be solved.
Exactly. And typically it realms from a need that I personally bumped up against. But like solving a problem, quick businesses like the tax resolution companies you hear about right now, do you owe over 10,000 in taxes? Yep. Do you own a timeshare and you can't get out of it? That's solving a problem. And then you solve a need. And then the other thing is that there's satisfying a want, a desire. This is like a Rolex over a Timex. This is a sandals vacation, over a regular vacation. This is Disney World over the Holiday Inn. This is, what's another, BMW over a Kia. You have transportation, then you have the next level. So, that's just different tiers of buyers. You have different buyers in a need basis as opposed to somebody who has like a desire. And then finally, if you can entertain people, if you can get eyeballs on you or your following, then you can always see, you can monetize that. If you get if you can get a following, put people in either, whether you can sing, be on YouTube, whatever the case may be, obviously you can make money. They're the four business, the four ways that my brain comes up with. I think that's 99% of most businesses fall into those four baskets.
And then what do you find is more important in this day and age, the digital marketing or the traditional marketing of TV, radio, billboards, direct mail?
I just bought 2 Super Bowl ads, so pre-bought. And I bought tons of TV ads because it's during the election. I buy them a year in advance. This is what I say. He said, I don't know if you know it, but Budweiser sells beer, and they're going to spend about $20 million during the Super Bowl to remind you. I think it all works. I own a digital marketing company, but I spend money on TV. I run radio ads because I got you trapped in the car. It's great for your it's great for testimonials. Radio is really good for testimonials, getting that aware. I like it. I don't do it for like a call to action. I wouldn't do it. I don't like it for that, but I like it for telling you that we're great and having a customer tell you that. I like direct mail if I want new move-ins. Because when people move in it's a law of math. If you typically send 60,000 people a postcard, you get a 0.5% return. It's still a pretty good return. So I look at all of it. I just go with who's my target customer and what's all the ways that I could reach them. I don't want to have only one way to reach a customer. That, to me, that's not a durable business model.
So it's really important to figure out who your customer is then too, right?
Absolutely. That's why I wrote The World's Greatest Business Plan, because in that book, I talk about it. Who's your target customer and how are you going to reach them? And what is the message you're going to use to appeal to them? How you would appeal to a millennial is different than how you're going to appeal to somebody over the age of 60. I mean, if Pat Boone is in any more over 70 commercials, he is pimping everything you can do for an old person. He's got you getting in tubs. He's got you with pain relief factor. He's got you, he's doing everything but selling you, knit sweaters.
Right.
He's got a target customer.
And then once you figure out your target customer, I like what you said about how you use the different marketing pieces, like the testimonials for the radio. And so part of it is knowing how to use that avenue of marketing, right?
It's like a chess set. Every one of the pieces has a different purpose. There's I have a queen, I have a bishop, I have, foot. I use all the weapons in front of me. They all serve a purpose. I call it layered marketing. I do one thing, like I'll do radio when I know people are going to be like out at their pools. I do a lot of radio advertising. I do TV for the Super Bowl and through elections. I'll do a lot of like Hallmark Channel from Thanksgiving through Christmas.
I like that.
Tiger Woods has made me a millionaire. I buy every weekend golf event Tiger Woods is on. It's the best demographics possible for my business. So I pre-buy everything he's on. I buy all the majors in advance. I get his schedule for January and I pre-buy, he may drop out of it, but basically I pre-buy every golf event, Saturday and Sunday. I direct mail. I do 60,000 pieces every single month. It's the law of math. I use it all. I want to have 6 different things. I want to utilize everything possible to reach my customers.
How do you design your ads, whether they're TV, radio, social media, billboards? Like, how do you design what's going to go on there?
Yeah, how you would do a print ad maybe is different than a radio ad, but let me just kind of go through my philosophy.
Yep.
Number one is you want to keep it simple and you only want to communicate one overriding message. You don't want it. In other words, if somebody hears a radio ad, I want them just to walk away and go, Advantage is a good company. If I need anything done that has to do with my house, that's who I need to call. That's all I'm trying to accomplish with a radio. Nothing more than that. Great company, great reputation. They've won all these awards. Now, if I get you on TV, I want to put a face on there. I want to show a before and after picture because I got the power of a TV. So when I do a TV, I'm going to do a before and after. Okay.
Of the job, like
absolutely,
here's the kitchen before, here's the kitchen
and I'm
after.
gonna have a customer talking us through it.
Gotcha.
They told me to take out this wall, blah, blah, blah. So that's how I use TV. Digital is different. See, digital is that digital is kind of like having like a Swiss Army knife. I can promote something this week. I can pull that ad really quickly and run something next week. So digital, I kind of can play with whatever, like if one of my divisions are down, I'll tell James, let's just run painting for the next 2 weeks. Hey, design a basement finishing one. You know, winter came a little bit early, whatever the case may be. So that's how I use digital. I use digital, you know, much more strategic strike. Okay, now direct mail marketing, I do a call to action. I put an offer on it. You're going to get $100 off, whatever. That way I can track it. I got to get their attention because they're pulling it out of the mailbox. I got 5 seconds to grab their attention. This is not the time to give a testimonial. This is not the time to give them anything to read. Great company, great offer. Do I need any of these things they offer? That's it. I got 5 seconds. So that's kind of in a nutshell. That's how I do it.
Do you like billboards?
I'd like billboards if it fit. I mean, there's certain businesses. Yeah, like if I was in Houston and I could get a billboard right on the best line of traffic.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I had a restaurant that was on the next exit, or I was a lawyer, you know, doing, acts, I got you out of DWIs or something that's fairly common or whatever the case may be.
Yep.
Yeah. Hey, I would use a hot air balloon. I am a respecter of nothing. Who is my target customer? What's the least expensive way I can reach them? That's it. That's the only metrics.
And how do you decide how much to spend on marketing?
It's simple. Number one is that what I do, I've tracked every piece of advertising since the day I started my company. I have a spreadsheet. I get it every single day, 4:30 to 5 o'clock in the evening. I get 2 specific ones. And it'll tell us every phone call we got, where it came from. Did it come through the online estimate? Did it come through radio, TV? We asked every single person how we heard about them. That allows me to, then it's really simple. Let's say I got 30 calls this week for conversation's sake. And let's say we did 120,000 this week. Well, I can kind of do the math a little bit there, but it means every call's worth about $4,000. Okay, so if a call's worth $40,000 to me, just in a generic, I'm just doing a generic way to look at it.
Yep.
Well, then would I be willing to spend $100 for one call? Yeah, I think I might. So when I look at this, let me just look at this number. So 30 calls. So I would be willing, even if I was willing to spend $100 per call, that'd be like $3,000 a week. So that's 120. I spend a little bit more than that, but that's you just got to come up with the factor that works for your business. Our average customer spends about $4,000 with us. Now, if they're only spending 40 with you, well, then that's probably going to have to be, it might be $4. But as a business owner, you need to decide who is your target customer. How much are they going to spend with you? And how much can you afford to spend to attract them? What are they worth? What's their value in one-time sale? And then you got to look at lifetime value. Another example, I speak at colleges, so I can get inundated on this stuff, but another example. 10 years ago, I have a client, takes me 40 minutes, one of my partners, 40 minutes to do a $2,000 sale. It was bookshelves in a living room and a lot of books. Calls 10 years later, spend $240,000 with us. Same 40 minutes. The business grew. We don't need that room. We want to build a big addition, put an office out there, blah, 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 blah. Same amount of time, $2,000 on one visit, $240 on the other. It's called lifetime value. So
Gotcha.
we've made them happy for 10 years. They were going to say yes to us probably no matter what we said, barring us, really doing something stupid. When you make customers happy, they have a lifetime value. They don't buy once. They refer people and they buy again. A good customer will make up 2/3 of all your business, and they'll repeat and they'll tell somebody. The secret, though, is you got to always bring in new business. You always got to bring in fresh business because you got to fire customers. I got customers I get rid of. Politely, I say, listen, Gene, I wish it would have worked out, but my staff doesn't think they can make you happy anymore. We're just finding it to be exhausting. We're going to send back your deposit.
And how do you determine that?
They pissed us off.
Yeah. And
They just get to the point. I'm being funny,
Yeah.
but they're just exhausting. My staff will say, Sean, I can't make this lady happy.
And you trust your staff when they tell
absolutely.
you that. You're like, yeah,
Yeah.
I know they're the best, and they
my
do
staff. My staff wins all arguments over customers.
I like that.
So I'll just say to my staff, hey, give me this scenario. And then I'll typically reach out to a customer first, because I don't get involved in a lot of this. There's always a partner below me that handles all this. But I've trained my partners is, you're just going to say, Mrs. Smith, we would love for this to work out. But at this point, we feel like we're having a disconnect. We just don't feel like we're going to be able to make you happy. Let's redefine what the scope of this job is. Let's make sure we're on the same page. Because if we're not, we'd like to give you your money back. And we do that. I just gave a lady back a good bit of money like a week ago, because I'm just like, you know what? I don't think it's a good fit. She just kept calling the office too much. Well, when are you guys going to start? We're like, we told you we're going to start in 6 months. Well, I was kind of hoping you'd start sooner. I said, I was kind of hoping I was 6'2", but I'm 5'7.5". You know what? We're going to have to live with it. So, you just get customers like that you can't meet their expectation, and they beat up your staff. Number 2 is they have a problem paying. I call it alligator arms. With our company, you pay the day we're finished. You do a deposit and you pay during, but when we're done, you write us a check. It's just like buying groceries. We don't invoice anybody. $5 million, we're not owed $2,000 at the end of the year. So when a customer likes to, could you mail me that invoice? No, we're going to email it to you. And if you could give a check to the gentleman who just finished your job while he's putting his tools in his truck. Is it okay for me to give it to him? Absolutely. He just worked in your house for the last 5 days. Please hand him a check. So things like that, whenever we get it, now we have a pretty much a reputation where people know, because on social, they'll post something negative, wow, they were, I don't know if I would use them again. And I respond as the owner. The problem is that the individual just mentioned added quite a few things to their original contract that they were hoping would be for free. And then when they got their bill, they didn't want to pay it. I would highly recommend customer A to hire somebody on Craigslist. I'm not below that. I am that owner.
Yeah.
I always tell somebody, you're going to take a shot, be careful. Because, you're not going to badmouth our company and badmouth my employees.
And you don't get worried that it could go the wrong way, the way things go viral?
Things you got to do it in a comedic way. But no, I had a customer like a few years ago who, perfect example. Again, these things don't happen often, but you get those situations. At the end of the job, the customer said to our worker, can you bring a second person? I'd like to add some things. Now, let's say they were paying $900 for one guy for conversation's sake. So he wants to add a second guy and he gives them some additional things to do. At the end of the job, he goes, why am I paying for the second guy? I'm going, well, you had one guy in your job for 3 weeks. You added additional work. Well, I thought it would still be the same. Now, I don't know about you, but I'm not that dumb. And I'm not that naive.
Yeah.
And I go, no, you know exactly what you did. You added additional work. You had the other person do it. I go, well, let me ask you a question. Assuming your premise is true, why wouldn't you ask for 2 guys from day one? If you thought you were getting 2 guys, why would you have had one there for 3 weeks? So I do it in a funny way, but there are times where, a lot of times we'll let stuff go, but there are times where I'll tell a customer when they start doing the threat. The thing is, they never post anything. They always threaten you first. I'm gonna. And I always just say to somebody, listen, I would encourage you not to do it because your contract, I will copy and paste it.
And send the contract back.
In other words, yeah. In other words, if example, somebody will say, well, they didn't do this. And in their I'll have the email where they go, please don't do room A.
Yeah.
There are times where you have to defend yourself a little bit.
Yeah.
You can't constantly take incoming fire.
So what about like somebody that would say the customer's always right?
Oh, I don't buy that at all. My gosh. Just think of that premise. Have you been to a family reunion lately?
Not during COVID.
I am not vouching for all my kinfolk. Okay? There's no way they're all right. We all have the aunt who hasn't been happy since the 60s. We all have relatives that you're never going to make happy. Hey, listen, and I'm being kind of funny about it because I do think, startup founders take a beating by their customers. And I think you do need to politely keep them in their place, because what ends up happening, you create a monster. And not only that, you can't make your staff gets beat up, and then they're not happy. They don't want to come to work. So you got to kind of be the referee. It's kind of like being a parent between like 3 siblings as the owner. So my point is that a customer has the right to share their experience. And a lot of times, 90% of the time, it's a referee. They misunderstood something, or your worker misunderstood something. Everybody has the best intention 9 out of 10 times. So sometimes you got to hear it again and go, okay, we missed that. And then the other person, or they go, well, I thought you were going to do that. And this happens. And I always say the problem is, if you look in your contract, it's not in your contract. You mentioned a lot of things that you wanted to do. And then when we gave you the line items for them, you decided to par it back a little bit. Oh yeah, you're right. They play dumb. And so they try to get the worker to do it. And then let's say he does do it, and then you bill him for it. And you go, listen, it wasn't on your contract. Well, I know we spoke about it. I go, yeah, but we put it in our proposal and you chose not to do it. You didn't choose it. In other words, how do you handle it? Do you just give it to them for free?
Well, are there times that you do eat crow? Aren't there times where you just say, you know what, we're just going to make it right, or
I mean, I don't
or
buy
where
that,
does that line come
right. I mean, this is what I think. I think you're training a customer just like training a child. In other words, listen to me, I do it in a very comedic way. We've got 20,000 repeat customers. But if I give you freebies and you knew that wasn't in your contract, then what do I got to do the next time? Give it to you again? Yeah. I mean, my point is, like, where does it stop? The example, why do I take a beating? If you go in a grocery store, you take something extra and you walk out of the store, what happens to you?
Yeah, they call it stealing? Is that where you're
so
going with that?
My point is that I think this is where startup founders get beat up.
Yeah.
I use comedy. I've done stand-up, and I'm just being funny for half this. I have a way to communicate with a customer in a way where I just tell them, I go, listen, John, I'm going to give you, like, when something like that happens, I go, John, I'm going to give you 2 hours for free. That's it. You're getting 2. That's the end of it. Don't add another thing. Like if one of my guys tells me, hey, the guy's adding, we'll send out hey, John, it looks like you're adding stuff that's not in the contract.
Yeah, I would imagine in your line of work, you get a lot of that too. I can see where you're coming from.
A lot. You know,
once they see the tile go down in the living room, or they're like, oh wow, it would look really nice in the foyer too.
Oh yeah, can you just extend it 3 feet? I mean, you can't say that yet. And then what you do is you're training a bad client. You're training a client you don't really want. So to me is that we just kind of, and we make people happy. I mean, listen, I have an on-staff designer. I have an on-staff engineer. I mean, we go through more to make people happy than you could possibly imagine. So my feeling is, man, we make 99 out of 100 people really, really happy. But I'm not going to cower to the one who's completely wrong.
Yeah.
And we'll just give them their money back.
Too. So what about, say you're in a place, and, for 3 weeks, your guys are working there, and the customer buys them lunch every single day. Yeah. And then at the end, they say, hey, do you mind doing, hanging a couple shelves or something like that? Is there times where maybe that comes into play? Is that different?
It's one of those things where if my guys can do something under 15 minutes, I wouldn't have charged you anyway.
Gotcha.
In other words, I don't nickel and dime people. It's when you added something that that takes an hour or longer.
Gotcha.
I'm not going to charge you. I'm not into nickel and diming. That's not our business model. Yep. And the other side of that, let's just say that it was an 8-hour job. My guys would stay an extra hour and a half to finish it, and we wouldn't charge you for it. So there's a balance there. I'm just saying, again, we service 1,000 customers a year. We get about 10 that we gotta, that we do have these uncomfortable conversations with.
Yeah, and I think you broke it down there good too. I mean, out of 1,000, you get 10. That's really that's kind of minuscule too. So let me ask you this question here: the perception or some kind of thought that maybe somebody getting into business, that when people are talking about business, they always talk about certain things. And if somebody is a young entrepreneur and they're hearing that over and over again, what are some things that people always say about business that really, once you get into business, you're like, that's kind of horse crap?
Okay. The big thing, more important, there's like 6 lies that keep people from going into business to start with in the first place. And let me just kill these 6 myths, because these are huge and everybody thinks these. First thing is, you think you have to quit your day job or your job. You can do 2 things at once. Okay. Don't quit your day job. Start it at a micro level, get a little bit of money coming in. I never quit a job to start a business. That's number 1. Number 2 is, you think you need a ton of capital. Start it at a micro level, get the pulse beating. Then you put money into it. You don't go all in. You don't throw everything on, black number 5, like on the roulette wheel. Okay. So that's a mistake. Number 3 is, you feel like you got to have like a business education. I've never taken a business class in my life. You can figure it out. You can learn it. Next thing is that you feel like everything's got to be perfect. There is no perfect. A good plan done immediately is better than a perfect plan executed late. Okay. So just take your good plan and just kind of get it out there. That's so important. Whatchamacallit, I have so many of these 6. I don't know where I stopped at all of them, but I think I covered the most ones that, that keep people, that discourage them. They think they need money. They think they need to quit their job. I know what it is. And the other thing is, they think they got to have like a big idea. Like we see Shark Tank. And if you think of the ideas I share, I didn't share with you one great idea today. An auto detailing company, a handyman company, and a digital marketing strategic. That one's probably the sexiest and makes me the least amount of money.
Yeah, I love it. So Sean, where can people find you? If they want more of you and they want to read your books and get at you, where can they get at you?
All right, let me just give you a bunch of stuff for free. So if you go to my personal website, SeanCastrina.com, my first book is on there for free, The 8 Unbreakable Rules for Business Startup Success. That'll keep you from making some crazy mistakes. If by chance you're getting ready to start a business and you want to do a business plan, I wrote a real simple one that works. It just gets to the chase. It's called The World's Greatest Business Plan. You can get it for free at worldsgreatestbusinessplan.com/free book. So you can get 2 of my 3 books for free. And then if you want, the way I talk about business issues, very quick, direct, and to the point, the 10-Minute Entrepreneur podcast you will probably enjoy. I don't beat around the bush and talk about real things in a very fast manner.
That's fantastic. And then we're to the point in the show where we like to solve your success. What's the equation to your success with 7 rapid fire questions? Okay. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay. Best seminar or teaching you've ever been to?
Tony Robbins. Yeah.
Favorite item you bought recently under $100?
I just bought a new frying pan where nothing sticks to it, but the handle doesn't get hot and the top doesn't get hot. Been married 30 years. I've been asking for new pans for I can't tell you how long.
Name an idol or hero of yours that you've met in person.
John Maxwell.
Favorite book to give as a gift?
Think and Grow Rich.
Love that book. That's my favorite. Something you do every morning before you brush your teeth.
I always, before my feet touch the floor, I lay in bed and go through a few things I'm really grateful for. Before my feet hit the floor, while I'm laying there, just 2 minutes I'm like, if I can move my body, I'm awake. My beautiful wife is next to me. I'm playing with the house's money.
Your personal mantra or favorite quote?
Insanity is doing the same thing over and over, expecting a different result.
And place you go to decompress and reset?
I live in Charlottesville, which is real mountainy. My side of my house is gorgeous. I have a porch and I have a bike, a rowing machine, and a total gym. So I work out outside when it's beautiful. And I have a gym inside, but that's like my away from everybody. Nobody can see me. It's just nature and 3 pieces of equipment.
Sean, thank you so much for being on the show today. I'm sure people got a lot out of it. I know I did. It was a great conversation. And thank you very, very much.
Well, thanks for allowing me to be on the podcast.